Karna, yeah, that name, it brings up a lot, right? For so many, he's the ultimate tragic hero of the Mahabharata, a warrior with incredible skill and generosity, just constantly wronged by fate. But, is that the whole story? Today, what we're going to do is kind of pull that popular image apart by diving straight into the source material. We're going to uncover a character who's far more complex and maybe far more human. All right, let's get into it. Just imagine hearing those words. Your whole identity, your whole being, just shrunk down to an insult, screamed at you in front of a whole royal court. I mean, this line from Bhim, the Pandava prince, it's not just a casual insult. This is the moment that defines Karna's entire life. It's the arrow that wounded him deeper than any weapon ever could, and it set the stage for everything that was to come. And look, this wasn't just a one-off thing. Karna's life was this constant storm of humiliation, and it was all tied to his social status as a charioteer's son. This relentless rejection didn't just make him sad. No, it lit this raging fire of hatred inside him, And that fire had a target, the Pandavas. And to get his revenge, to reclaim his honor, he basically decides to walk away from Dharma, from the path of righteousness, and throw his lot in with their biggest enemies.
Okay, so first up, the misunderstood warrior. Let's really dig into this popular image of Karna, the guy that so many people look up to. Who was he really?
Okay, so here's where it all gets messy right from the start. See, he was born a demigod, son of the sun god Surya and the princess Kunti, which, by the way, makes him the secret older brother of the Pandavas. But, and this is the huge but, he's abandoned at birth and raised by a simple charioteer's family. So you've got these two identities just warring inside him, the son of a god and the son of a charioteer. And that's exactly why some people see him as this incredible symbol of loyalty, and why others, well, they see him as cruel and just deceptive.
So in a world that's just constantly shutting the door on him, one person, opens it wide. Duryodhana, the prince of the Kauravas. When everyone else is mocking Karna's caste, Duryodhana stands up for him, sees his skill, and even makes him a king. This one act, it forges this bond that becomes legendary. I mean, we talk about their loyalty to this day. But was it really as unbreakable as the stories say?
And that brings us to our next section, a questionable friendship. Because this is where we start to really challenge the myth, that perfect, legendary friendship. Well, the source material, it tells a bit of a different story.
So check this out. It's just so stark, isn't it? On one side, you've got the legend, a perfect friendship no matter what. And on the other, the source text itself says he straight up abandoned his friend in the middle of a battle. And I'm not interpreting here. This is literally right there in the text.
So let's break down what actually happened. It's called the Gandharva battle. Basically, Duryodhana, being Duryodhana, gets arrogant and picks a fight he can't win with these powerful beings, the Gandharvas. The Kuru army just gets steamrolled. So what does Karna do? Does he make some heroic last stand? Nope. He gets scared for his own skin and he runs. He literally flees the battlefield, leaving Duryodhana, the one guy who ever stood up for him, to get captured by the enemy.
This one moment, it just forces you to ask a really tough question. So, was Karna ever really Duryodhana's true friend? Was his loyalty absolute? Or, when the chips were down, was he really just looking out for number one? It definitely makes that whole perfect friendship story a lot more complicated.
All right, so from his friendship, let's pivot to the other defining relationship in his life, that all-consuming rivalry with Arjuna. And believe me, this wasn't just some healthy competition. This was personal.
Wow. This quote, it just says it all, doesn't it? So his birth mother, Kunti, finally comes to him and begs him not to fight his own brothers. And look what he says. He promises he won't harm any of them, except for Arjuna. His hatred, it's like a laser beam. It's totally focused. In his mind, there's only room for one of them in this world.
And this obsession, it didn't just pop out of thin air. Think about it. First, at Draupadi's marriage ceremony, he's humiliated, told he can't even compete because of his caste. And then he has to watch Arjuna, in disguise, win the whole thing. Then, his own guru, Dronacharya, makes it painfully obvious that Arjuna is the favorite. And maybe the worst one of all, he finds out that Arjuna single-handedly defeated the same Gandharvas that he ran away from. Can you imagine the sting of that? His rivalry wasn't just rivalry anymore. It had soured into this deep, burning jealousy.
Okay, so next up, the price of deception. Because this obsession, this need to be better than Arjuna, it's going to push Karna to make a choice that will seal his fate. And it's a choice that has nothing to do with righteousness.
So Karna's got one goal,
defeat Arjuna. And to do that, he knows he needs the Brahmastra, the most powerful divine weapon there is. He goes to Dronacharya first, but Drona sees right through him. He knows this is all about hatred for the Pandavas, so he says no. But Karna is not taking no for an answer. He seeks out another teacher, the legendary Parshuram.
And this is where he makes a huge mistake. See, Parshuram has this oath. He only teaches Brahmins. So what does Karna do? He looks this great sage in the eye and straight up lies. He says, I am a Brahmin. He willingly chooses the path of adharma, of unrighteousness, just to get his hands on this weapon.
And the way the truth comes out is just dripping with irony. So get this. One day, Parshuram is napping with his head on Karna's lap, and this nasty insect starts biting into Karna's leg, burrowing into his flesh. But Karna, not wanting to wake his guru, just sits there and takes the agonizing pain. He doesn't even flinch. Well, Parshuram wakes up, sees this bloody mess, and he knows instantly. He says no Brahmin could ever endure this kind of pain. Only a Kshatriya, a warrior, could do that. And just like that, the lie is exposed.
Parshuram is furious, absolutely enraged, and he lays down a curse that is just devastating. He tells Karna, because you learned this from me through a lie, this knowledge will abandon you at the moment you need it the most. In his final, most critical battle, he will completely forget how to use the Brahmastra.
All right, so that brings us to the big question, right? Fate versus free will. After everything we've looked at, was this guy a hero crushed by fate, or did he kind of build his own downfall?
And let's be totally fair. The injustices he faced were real, and they were awful. He was abandoned by his mother, mocked his whole life for a status that wasn't his fault, and even had his divine, impenetrable armor tricked away from him. I mean, fate dealt him a truly terrible hand. That part of his story, it's absolutely tragic. No question.
But, and this is the big but, that's only half the story. He wasn't a puppet. He made choices. He chose to side with the Kauravas knowing they were on the path of adharma. He chose to run from that battle and abandon his friend, and he chose to lie to his guru, all to feed his own jealousy. These weren't things fate forced on him. These were his decisions.
And that brings us right back to where we started. You see, the popular story likes to paint Karna as this simple victim of fate, but when you actually read the text, you find someone so much more complex. A man caught in this impossible tug-of-war between the horrible things that happened to him and the questionable things that he did. He's not just a tragic hero. He's a tragically human figure. So I'll leave you with this. Was Karna a victim of a cruel fate he couldn't escape, or was he a product of his own choices? The real answer? Well, like Karna himself, it's anything but simple.